Oh, the teeny tiny little gray one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Worked earlier when I.
okay. Oh, there you go. Jiggling a little bit.
I was
If
looking for this to light up, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. It is 10 o'clock, and I'm calling to order this November 7th, 2019 meeting of the Public Safety and Justice Committee. I am Supervisor Susan Ellenberg, the chair of this committee. Mike Wasserman is my vice chair, and I'd like to ask all of the members up here to introduce themselves, please.
Good morning, Josefina Covarrubias from the Medical Examiner Coroner's Office, sitting in for Dr. Michelle Jordan.
Good morning, Jeff Rosen, District Attorney.
Good morning, Laura Garnett, Chief Probation Officer.
Good morning, Molly O'Neill, Public Defender.
Good morning. Assistant Sheriff Mike Doty sitting in for Sheriff Laurie Smith.
Good morning, Matthew Fisk, Interim and Pretrial Services.
Good morning, Deborah Ryan, Presiding Judge, Superior Court.
Good morning, Rob Coelho from County Counsel's Office.
Good morning, Martha Wapensky, Deputy County Executive.
And good morning, everyone. Sylvia Perez McDonald, Director of the Independent Defense Counsel Office.
Good morning, Miguel Marquez, Chief Operating Officer.
Good morning, everyone. That takes us to public comment. This item on the agenda is reserved for people desiring to address the committee on any matter not on the agenda. Members of the public who wish to address the committee on any item not listed on the agenda should complete a yellow request to speak form and place it in the tray near the podium. I have one public comment. Scott Largent, we have 3 minutes. Welcome.
All right, Nancy, thank you, thank you. Got a lot of stuff going on today, so I do apologize up here. Kind of running a little behind today. I was out in the hallway. Victorious' case has made it to the Supreme Court. So this is impressive work. He was pretty much motivated by an attorney, Jonathan Grossman, which was his appellate attorney, and he kind of lit that fire under Victorious. And I'm telling you, Victorious could actually be an attorney. And the work that he put together, I mean, this is beautiful work. And for him to continue to fight for his rights here, to get back into the supervisor chambers here, is very impressive. It's motivating for me. He's a good guy and he deserves to come back in here. I believe he was set up. Actually, I know he was set up. I reviewed the footage from inside this chambers. The stuff they provided for court was only about a 15-minute shot. If you watch the full 3 hours, you see the county council, you see Dave Cortese, you see them all chiming in, working a deal with the sheriff's department to set his ass up. So that was not right. And he will be back in here. So this is good stuff right here. I'm pretty excited. When the system failed me, that's when I met Victorious. I was getting that free water over at the public defender's office, and he came into that lobby there. You know, I was cold, I was scared, I was confused, and he was the member from the public that stood up for me. When I was a child and I went through the foster care system, the group home system, it was the Mexican community in a way, the East Side community that almost stood up for me. I mean, I was born and raised in Saratoga, kind of get tossed into the juvenile hall system. They taught me how to stand up for myself. They taught me that it's okay to get knocked down nonstop, but you keep getting back up, and it's a respect thing. And I just didn't know that. We pushed each other on the playground in Saratoga. We didn't punch each other. You go in that juvenile hall, it's a whole different story. Same in the group home system. Many people in power here have pretty much tried to buy my friendship with Victorious, okay? And I will never turn my back on him. I won't do it. Friendship like that is not for sale. It never will be. And he's a good man, and I'm just wondering what type of statue we're going to put next to that DA's office out there. I think it should be about 7 stories tall, his boxing gloves right up in the air. You know, maybe we could put a gavel in his hand like that, you know. We could put all the illness-spreading germ attorneys down there, you know, little brass little figurines. Because the man got really, really, I mean, it was horrible what you guys did to him. And allowing this to happen over our civil rights, it's just not right. So, still fighting this stuff right here. I know I'm like a lone wolf. And now I'm running pro per on my bullhorn cases because this system is a failure. So, thank you.
Thank you. Confirming that there are no other cards for public comment? Thank you. Then that takes us to item 3, approval of the consent calendar. I would like to add item 7 to consent. And item 4, which is not currently on consent, I would like to hold to the February 6th meeting. This is my referral for to offer rebates for video cameras, and I wasn't happy with the report that came back. I don't feel that it was fully responsive to my original request, so I'd like to hold that and circle back to it in a couple of months. Is there anything else you have?
So, Madam Chair, was that a motion then to hold number 4, add 7 to consent, and also to approve 10 and 11 that are already on consent?
That's exactly what
I
it
will
was.
second that motion. That sounds like a heck of a motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, since item 4 is being held, that takes us to item number 5. And we have a presentation from the Office of Women's Policy. Welcome. Thank you. I'm sorry, hold on just one second. I neglected to ask if there were cards on the consent calendar. There were not. Thank you. And are there cards on this item? All right, we are now all caught up.
Good morning. My name is Pratima Pandey. I'm the manager for the Office of Women's Policy from the Division of Equity and Social Justice.
Good morning. My name is Quetzal Gomez, and I am the management analyst who works on our justice work in the office.
And as we're pulling up the presentation in the interest of time, thank you very much. We would like to go ahead and say that we're going to be really quick in our presentation and give the committee a chance to ask us questions, if any. Go ahead.
So we'd like to talk to you about the 2 areas of work we do, juvenile and adult. I will start off with our juvenile work. There's 3 areas that I'd like to highlight for you all. The first one is our Juvenile Justice Gender Responsive Task Force. That's a task force that meets once a month. It's chaired by Judge Lucero, Nick from probation, and Protima from our office. And this is a monthly meeting where we get together with partners from across all systems to really one is to get to know what's happening in the county, because a lot of times we forget to talk to each other. So we do a lot of presentations on what's going on. And the other part is that we have a couple of projects that are ongoing. That brings up our second area, which is our partnership with the Vera Institute of Justice. About over a year ago, we started this partnership where we had the Vera Institute of Justice. There's a competitive process where many counties presented to be part of a campaign to getting our girls and gender nonconforming youth that are incarcerated numbers down to 0. And so we were chosen as one of the 5, and we've been working with them with the assistance of researchers from NYU to kind of figure out what's happening. Because although we know that in our county our numbers are very low, there's an overrepresentation of certain populations and there's certain patterns that keep on happening, and we're trying to figure out how we can bring that number down to 0. And then the last area, excuse me, that also goes inside with our Getting Down to 0 campaign is our Young Women's Freedom Center. So as some of you may know, the Young Women's Freedom Center is an established community-based organization in San Francisco and Oakland, and we wanted to bring them down to Santa Clara County. We truly believe that they will help us reach that goal of getting our girls and gender nonconforming youth that are incarcerated numbers down to 0. Last night we actually launched our center here in Santa Clara County. It will be based in San Jose, and it was a very beautiful community-oriented event. Just like their work, they truly put the lives and the experiences of those directly impacted in the center of their work. So with that, we did receive a $1 million grant from our Youth Reinvestment Grant from the state, and we will be partnering them as OWP to make sure they get that funding.
Thank you. And then on the adult side, we wanted to highlight 3 programs. One is the Gender Responsive Opportunities for Women, which is a program that the Office of Reentry Services began after the Office of Women's Policy hosted a national conference on female offenders and organizations that serve female offenders. We completed a survey with 25 women who were not able to complete the program and are back at Elmwood because we're working with reentry to give them subject matter expertise on what we should do when we're relaunching the GROW program to achieve greater success. We have not yet finished tabulating the data from our focus group, but we'll be happy to bring it back to this committee. The second is we are partners on the Probation National Institute of Corrections grant. We attend convenings by probation, where we are participating in data collection and information on outcomes for women throughout our criminal justice system. And the third thing that I wanted to highlight is that we're very happy that our jail monitoring program is ongoing, despite the fact that the memorandum of understanding between the Sheriff's Office and Office of Women's Policy terminated in late August. While we're working on a new interagency memo, the Sheriff's Office has continued to ensure that our programming carries on. The only thing I want to highlight for this committee is that in January of this year, this committee approved the jail monitoring report from last year, and there was a survey that we had intended to complete for 5 years in a row so that we have robust data. We were unable to complete that survey this calendar year because the county counsel's office that advises the sheriffs is reviewing some of the questions. But we're happy to report that we're in the middle of data processing for a different survey that staff from the sheriff's office administered to all the inmates last week. Yes.
Can I interrupt you for a quick second? Is the survey that county council is reviewing this year different from the previous 4 years?
No, when we submitted the jail monitoring report this year, we had attached the survey and we had informed this committee that we would complete the survey for 5 years in a row. So in 2017 was the first time that we administered the survey.
I see. Okay.
But this year we were not able to administer it because there are some questions that are being reviewed. But we do have some other data that we are working on, which we got yesterday, on Wednesday, that we're processing. And that data is based on a 10-question survey that was administered over the weekend to almost all the inmates except about 100 by the Sheriff's Office staff. So we're working collaboratively with the Sheriff's Office staff in the jail. And so that's the part I want to report to this committee. Oh, that's right. Thank you. I do want to highlight that for the first time last year, we conducted 2 voter registration drives at the Elmwood Women's Facility. The women's facility didn't have regular drives, and when we conducted the drive, the first one we conducted with the League of Women Voters, which was actually filling out the forms, and we had close to 30 inmates that filled out the registration forms. And then in the fall of last year, we received presentation material from the registrar, and we went in and conducted 4 presentations, 2 days, over 50 women in each of those sessions, and then they were free to contact the registrar. So working with the registrar to get on a regular cycle, 2 years, 2 voter registration outreach every year at the women's jail. We're hopeful that it'll all come into play. And then the final thing I do want to highlight is that the Association of Justice-Involved Female Organizations Conference, it's an organization that's been around for over 30 years, and in 2017, it was the first time that they had their biannual conference. I think that's the word, every other year, here in California. And Office of Women's Policy hosted that conference, and out of that conference, there were outcomes that one of them was the GROW program. 2019, the conference is being organized by the Department of Corrections, Alabama, and Probation, Office of Reentry Services, and Women's Policy submitted a competitive request for proposal, and we're happy to report that we will be presenting in December. In fact, they contacted us because of some of the work that we had talked about in 2017. They contacted us to add to our presentation and report back on the work we're doing with healthcare for our inmates in the female correctional facility, as well when they leave. And so behavioral health, custody health is also part of the panel. And I think that's all we have. We're happy to answer any questions.
Supervisor Wasserman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say you continue to amaze me, and great job, great summary of the 3 or so organizations you're here representing and speaking for and about today. Congrats on the $1 million grant. That's huge. That not only takes great grant writers, it also takes having a great project, a mission to do. There's a very, very competitive world for very, very few dollars out there. And I think the work that you're doing for so many people in our county is just phenomenal. And I've enjoyed supporting it every year, every step of the way. And I appreciate your updates. I think you guys are awesome.
Thank you. I needed that today.
Well, I'm glad to echo all of those compliments. Thank you for being so eloquent. And I wanted to ask just in a little bit more detail about the two new grants, the Youth Reinvestment and the Vera Institute grant. When do you anticipate the jail diversion resource map to be completed?
So Vera has completed the first phase of mapping who performs direct services and Tier 2 and Tier 3 services in our county with justice-involved youth and transgender non-conforming youth. And then the second phase is ongoing. The grant terminates next year, end of next year, and it's a technical assistance grant. It doesn't have any dollars attached. So hopefully by the end of next calendar year, we would be able to bring back that report, because that's part of the memorandum of understanding as part of the grant that we received from Vera.
Great. And what kind of ideas do you have about programs that you might launch to get us to zero girls?
So that's a great question, because the Young Women's Freedom Center has already begun programming with an MOU with our juvenile probation. And some of the programming that is unique is programming that involves community-based research being done by justice-involved girls and transgender non-conforming youth, and they are actually classified as interns for Young Women's Freedom Center. There was some game-changing work that Young Women's Freedom Center did many years ago, and one of the pieces was them identifying individuals who are receiving programming from them as researchers because they have a trust from the community, and as part of the research that they're generating, they actually get a stipend, as well put it on a resume as work experience, and that has changed outcomes and reduced recidivism for up to 78% based on Young Women's Freedom Center records in the past. And so that's already begun in Santa Clara, and as Quetzal was saying last night, was our formal launch. And for the Youth Reinvestment Grant, we've built for 3 years, we built a budget and numbers of individuals who will be served with some of these programming pieces. Our first invoice is already here. The dollars are there. Quetzal and I trained in Sacramento, and I'm proud to report that we were the only program of its kind in the room. Do you want to share more when we did the training?
Well, yeah, so we were definitely the only program that was focusing on girls and gender nonconforming youth. Most of the, or 99% of everybody else was focusing on the needs of boys. So it was very important for us to be with everybody who, obviously boys need this space too, but when only one of the over 100 grants were focusing on girls, it's kind of a red flag, but also awareness of like, this is important work and we're gonna have to duplicate it everywhere in the nation.
It really is exciting and impressive work. My last question is, do you have all of the right people, everybody you need at the table? And I'll address that to you and then to any of the committee members who are already involved or would like to be involved. I'd be happy to hear from anyone else as well. But your assessment first, do you have everyone you need?
I think for now we're focusing on working more closely with SSA and DFCS, the Department of Children and Family Services, I apologize. And for us, those are critical partners because the DIY youth and what they need, the dually involved youth, I apologize again for, that's a very critical component that's missing. And so Vera, along with the resource mapping work that we're doing, we're trying to tap into that. But otherwise, I think, yeah, I think we're making a movement. We're very happy to report that if we've noticed any gaps, the county departments that we've connected with have been more than happy to work with us. So far, Vera hasn't had to get our help in unsticking any of that. It truly speaks to the volume of collaborative effort that this system, if we really think about it, we're a system, and we can fail our community if we work in silos, but at least our work hasn't shown that, so we're very happy with that.
That's really fascinating, and I am impressed that your answer focused on DFCS and SSA. I was thinking about it more from the criminal justice perspective, and I think that it's exactly right that I was wrong on that, or at least had wasn't fully focusing in the right direction. I hope that you'll stick around for the rest of the meeting, because we are going to hit back on this again in our study session in talking about diversion, and particularly for women and moms with infants and toddlers. But I see Molly's light is on.
Good morning. Thank you, Fatima and Quetzal, for your presentation. As we try to empty the hall of females, obviously they need to be somewhere, and I wonder if you're focusing particularly on alternative housing. Often kids in these situations are not welcome in their own homes, or they don't have one to begin with. So I wonder, is it Bill Wilson you're working with? Do you have a special focus on housing?
Yes, thank you very much, Public Defender, for your question. We are working closely with Young Women's Freedom Center to identify the most viable and sustainable housing options. We've had a couple of meetings with Key Lee, the Director of Office of Supportive Housing. We are gathering some data that he specifically requested on the housing needs pertaining to the extent of the stay, how many days, weeks, months, the age, as well whether these are individuals who will have criminal justice related supervision and or enforcement and or being DIY. We also are working with Young Women's Freedom Center and identifying local partners like Bill Wilson, who are part of our Juvenile Justice Gender Responsive Task Force. There are so many moving pieces that we can't find one single answer, but Young Women's Freedom Center is also working in San Francisco on a similar initiative to try and find housing, because as you rightly mentioned, it's a national trend, not just in Santa Clara, where girls, even if they score on the alternatives to incarceration, are not being welcomed back home, even temporarily, and then we end up incarcerating them, because if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And we can do game-changing work if we think about it. We don't want anything that's a stopgap solution, a Band-Aid. We'd rather find something that's sustainable. So I wish I had a better answer. Sorry.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation and for the work that you're doing and that we're doing together. So while we were sitting here, NCCD just released an article about girls that are involved in domestic violence, and they're not being respite beds for them because there's often domestic violence between girls and their mothers or siblings. So it's just another highlighting of that. But at the same time, as you all know, there's issues locally with not having placements for either juvenile justice or child welfare youth, with the community, with the CCR that was implemented. And so is what I would say is there's being a very intentional and strong effort on behalf of SSA, DFCS, and probation to get professional parent homes and foster homes online, and especially like crisis homes and that type of thing. So I hope that you will continue to work outside of that bounds, because I think it's a different population, and it can be a different population. And I think if this gets all merged in together, I mean, we're kind of in a pretty serious place right now. And so I just hope you continue to have separate efforts that are specific to this population.
Yes, thank you, Chief. We're mindful of the ongoing work, and our intent is to make sure that we plug it in a way that the ongoing work remains where it is, so that the focus and the expertise needed, because that's the bigger challenge. The VERA grant is unique in the sense that they're not bringing a solution from elsewhere. They're working within the system organically here, and so those are some of the things they are mindful of. And we'll keep an eye out. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other comments? And confirming again that there are no public comments on this item. Thank you. Then we will receive the report and move on to item number 6. And this is the proposed 2020 legislative policies for public safety and justice. And welcome, Danielle.
Good morning, Danielle Christian, Legislative Manager. So what you have today in your packet is the Public Safety and Justice chapter of the proposed legislative policies for 2020. The policies allow intergovernmental relations to work with departments to engage on bills that have been introduced that match up with the statements in the policies document. It allows our advocacy to be a little more timely, which makes it more relevant. Bills that are introduced that match up can be acted on without needing to come back to a policy committee or to the Board of Supervisors for additional authorization. The document is very long. There's many broad statements in it. Covers, I'd say, 99% of the bills that we engage on. There are a few that are new issues, up and coming items, and for those not covered, we come back to the relevant Board Policy Committee. Annually, Intergovernmental Relations asks to meet with departments or receive feedback on the document, on the statements to propose changes for the upcoming year. The information in the meetings help inform what we might be focusing on in the year to come. After each committee reviews its relevant chapter, there are 4 other chapters that correspond with the other policy committees. The document gets put back together and comes to the full board for its review and approval. And that's scheduled to happen in January. Additions to the document are indicated in italics, and deletions are indicated in strikeout. And I'm happy to answer any questions on the process or the statements in the document.
Thank you very much. Before we go to questions and comments, we have one public speaker on item 6, Scott Largent.
Thank you, everybody. Scott Largent. I try to stay in my lane when it comes to stuff like this, and I have been looking more into the legislative process and government codes, and it's all foreign to me. So coming up here and talking about this stuff, please do understand that I do have a disability. I have a learning disability, and it takes me time to try to understand things. So you got to kind of work with me on that. I started pulling all these government codes and started trying to figure out why legislation is changing, and I don't understand it. Now, I shouldn't be having to do all this research. And what I've been trying to figure out is the government codes as it pertains to the indigent client and their defense through the public defender's office. The stuff that I've been able to pull is that I should have been entitled to a better legal defense. All my rights should have been protected. And there are state statutes and government codes that apply to the public defender's office. Now, I know that is for the public defender's office. Then I wonder about the IDO. When we kick the legal can over to the IDO, which I consider to just play puppet with someone's civil rights and cover things up, at what point do they follow state legislation? I just don't get it. I'm kind of confused. I ask a lot of questions. I talk to a lot of people because I have to represent myself, because our legal community is garbage here in Santa Clara County. Now, I say our legal community, I'm talking about the lawyers and the judges, okay? The sheriff's department right now, law enforcement end, in my eyes, they're kicking butt. They're doing things right in our community right now. They're treating the mentally ill, the homeless right, the training's going great, and I'm very, very impressed. And I film them downtown. It is awesome to see. Everybody else is dropping the ball. But then when these people go through our criminal justice system, they're just fried, and their rights aren't protected. I think you need to start following the law, Molly. This is not right. I deserve a quality legal defense out of your office that I never got.
Thank you. I have a few questions, but I'll turn to my colleague first. But I want to thank you, Danielle, for this enormous document putting together opinions from so many departments, and I want to thank the departments for their participation as well.
Thank you, Chair. Danielle, under the public safety funding, I have 2 questions. If you could just take 60 seconds, elaborate on each one, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Under public safety funding, item number 12, which is all italicized, which I understand means it's a new addition. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And it says, if you could just explain to me a little bit more what the intent is, efforts to restore civic engagement by appropriate categories, I understand that part, of individuals with criminal histories such as the right to vote. So I was wondering what the goal was there specifically.
The statement was added at the request of the county counsel's office, and as I understand it, there was legislation this year that will allow, and I may get a little bit of this inaccurate, but would allow felons to serve on a jury. And so this was provided in that context of, you know, people who have criminal histories are precluded from certain civic engagement activities.
But we're talking felonies rather than misdemeanors?
Yes.
Okay. And it said here at the end of this, such as the right to vote. So is that an effort to restore the right to vote for those who've committed felonies?
So what the statement would allow is if there's legislation that is introduced to that effect, it would allow the county to support that bill without needing to come back to the committee. So it's not a statement that says we are going to proactively seek statutory authority to make that change, but if somebody in the legislature introduces a bill after conference with the appropriate departments, we may engage with a position on it.
Okay, and the civic engagement reference is to something such as serving on a jury?
Exactly.
Got it. And my second question under Department of Corrections, which is our packet page 38, the last one, number 6, again, also all in italics, programs that provide women inmates the ability to reside with and or parent their infants or young children while in custody. I'm in favor of that. I wondered what that effort was. Was that to support something that came from Sacramento?
Yes.
Okay.
So if there is funding or statutory language that would make it easier, if there are impediments to currently doing that legislation would address, we would be able to engage on those such efforts.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you. I want to actually address the district attorney with the first question about item 2 in your section, an amendment to the penal code that would prohibit imitation or toy firearms or instruments that expel plastic projectiles on school grounds. Can you share with me the history of the request to amend the penal code to prohibit toy guns? When was this added? What's the thinking on that?
I don't believe the penal code makes that a crime now, which is why we'd like to amend it.
You want it to be a crime for a child to have a toy gun on a campus?
Yes, when they look like replica firearms, they're incredibly dangerous to the staff, to other students, and to law enforcement, and so they should not be allowed on school campuses.
And what kind of penalty is being contemplated for children who have these?
It would be dealt with in juvenile court, where, as you know, the focus is on the rehabilitation of the minor. So whatever punishment or accountability would be quite minimal, but it would allow law enforcement to remove these items, and it would allow schools to prohibit these items from being brought on the campus.
Schools, am I incorrect that I believe that schools can prohibit those items currently? The difference would be that this enables children to be prosecuted?
What schools can and should and do are different things. So the fact that schools can doesn't mean that they do.
I personally, obviously not speaking for the committee as a whole, I would oppose recommending that this be included in our ledge priorities as a penal code measure. I would be glad to hear other opinions, either concurring or differing from mine, since this eventually will go to the entire board and I'll need to make a recommendation. Sylvia.
I agree with you, Madam Chair. I think that our penal code is actually quite voluminous, and it's not always punishing children is not always going to be a method to achieve or desired outcome. As well-intentioned and as effective as we're trying to make the juvenile justice system, bringing a child into the juvenile justice system in and of itself could be quite harmful. And this piece of legislation would essentially allow for that. And that's exactly what we're trying to prevent. So I think that your observation is a very good one, in that the better approach as a policy would be to work more effectively with the school system so that the school system utilizes their rehabilitation tools or their resources at the school level to apply the efforts at that level and not introduce it into the criminal justice system.
I certainly have no problem with or objection to schools prohibiting the items, confiscating them from children, but not involving the criminal justice system.
Well, and another observation is that we have studies and data for years in terms of what happens when schools, even in themselves, when they are well-intentioned policies like the zero tolerance policies that were in place for decades, they just simply created a pipeline for young children to be brought into the juvenile justice system. And in our juvenile justice system, we are not always as well equipped to manage those social, sort of emotional, cognitive, or sometimes mental health issues that these children have. And I do believe that there's currently laws in place to punish juvenile and adolescent behavior that is detrimental and dangerous. And this is just expanding and widening the net to add more of those vulnerable children in our system.
Thank you. Any other comments or input? My second question is also a firearm-related piece. I'd like to ask for the addition of language to support bans on firearms modifications and accessories that increase the rate of fire modifications to a firearm that allows more than one round to fire at a time.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, are you referring to something here, or are you adding something new?
I am adding.
Okay, thank you.
Adding to our support of the assault weapons ban, and each time we ban another piece, the gun manufacturers very cleverly figure out a way around that item, and it seems that there's a loophole for I keep doing that, for the binary trigger mechanism, that is not classified right now as a characteristic of a semi-automatic weapon, and I believe that it should be.
Okay.
Is that clear?
A little. So we do have a statement in the document about a ban on weapons and ammunition that allow for rapid reloading and multiple rounds of ammunition, such as the bullet button, which is a modification that can be made to a gun to allow for rapid.
Those are prohibited.
We have a statement in the document that would allow us to engage on legislation that would do that. But if what you're suggesting is a little bit broader or
add the binary trigger piece.
Be happy to, and I'll connect with your office on.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And the last piece that I would encourage is the addition of language to support efforts that work to engage and encourage neighboring jurisdictions, neighboring states specifically, to adopt similar laws. I think we saw with the Gilroy Garlic Festival shooting that while our California laws are fairly comprehensive, we still will remain vulnerable until there is a comprehensive federal assault weapon ban. So while we continue advocating for action at the federal level, I think that we should do what we can to support our neighboring states to expand laws that ban assault weapons and address loopholes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Molly.
Danielle, thank you for your work and for your report. I have a process question. So we're receiving this report, but in terms of the objection you have to one of the recommendations related to criminalizing replica guns on campus, what happens now, given Supervisor Ellenberg's objection to that inclusion, and process-wise, could you explain?
I'm going to need to reconnect with the county executive office and with the person that I report to on how to make that change and what to do. And perhaps it
County
stays in the
Council.
document, but the report that goes to the board indicates that there was concern expressed about it. Another option is connecting with the district attorney's office and seeing if there's a different way to word this. So it's a little to be determined, but there will be something that indicates there was concern expressed about it if it remains in the document that goes to the board for its review and approval.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't clear
Sure.
on the process.
Yes.
And as this is my first time through, I'm not entirely clear either, so I'm going to turn to county council for some guidance.
I think you've described the process accurately. I think Ms. Christensen got it right. It's ultimately administration will take input from this committee as well as other committees. We'll compile it into whatever legislative file is presented to the full board, and then the full board will have an opportunity to take a look at everything that's presented with respect to these PSJC items that have been presented today, add comment to them, request that something be removed, request that something be added, and request that something be modified. So there's an internal county process first, and then ultimately something will be presented to the full board. And even if something is removed by administration or substantially cut back or revised, the full board could add it back in or further tailor it back.
And I'm sorry if I may, the other thing to point out is that when the full document goes back to the board, any changes that have been made to the document since the review by the board policy committee is also called out and indicated in a different type of font, just for the purpose of transparency, so that somebody who reads the legislative file in their office or at home is aware that since the last public review, there's been some changes.
Thank you. And do we need a motion on this item?
Yes, because of the direction you've given for the 3 items to be called out specifically in what you produce later, Danielle, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would you like to make such a motion?
No, I'd like that motion to be your motion. I will agree with it being the 3 items that you brought up. I'm not fully read in on those 3 items. They were, didn't know about them. And so I will support your motion, though, of them being added to the file that you bring forward and being called out in different font or color as an addition recommendation by a supervisor or this committee.
That works for me. Moved
Okay.
and seconded then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are moving now to item number 7, to receive report from the Office of the Sheriff on recruitment. And I have one, no, I don't.
Consent.
We put,
7 we did on
we put that on
consent?
consent.
Yep.
Item number 8, to receive a report from the Office of the Sheriff on training. And on this item, I have one public comment, so why don't we start with that and then go to a report from the sheriff. Scott Largent.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate you letting me go in first. I got to visit in about 15 minutes with my daughter down at the courthouse, so this will work out perfect. Get this 2 minutes, I can get out of your guys' business here. I have been, like I said about watching the Sheriff's Department now with all the training and how they're interacting with the mentally ill and homeless stuff, it's working, okay? And you guys should be proud of the Sheriff's Department on what's going on. And we need to make that a model for all these other cities here. Because Santa Clara, they're not doing too hot. The PD, their interaction with the mentally ill and homeless is to bring 10,000 cops and jump on somebody. The Sheriff's Department will have several officers there. They'll interact, they'll talk with the person, they'll defuse the situation, and it is the neatest thing to see. And it's hard to see other agencies that aren't applying that. And I've been able to be right down in there filming it, which is neat. I started also, what I'm going to try to do is I want to try to attend some of these training things. I know it's for law enforcement only. Some other agencies have allowed me to come and participate, and I've also been attending stuff through our behavioral health system to figure out how they're interacting with people. And I was able to take some courses on suicide prevention, which was really neat, and this is offered through our county, so everybody can go take these courses. And I've also signed up for the 40-hour course to do it over the telephone and volunteer. I come in here and see everything that's going on. I like to see it out in the public. And I'm just impressed. I know we had bad things happen in the jail, and things with the sheriff's department, stuff like that, but I think the right things were done. I mean, I really, really do, and they've completed all their training, and I'm not just going up here to, toot their horn or anything. It is impressive. I am very impressed, so thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Please introduce yourselves, and looking forward to hearing from you.
Good morning. My name is Sergeant Mario Ledesma with the Sheriff's Office Field Training Program.
Good morning, Lieutenant Michelle Asbin, backgrounds in recruiting and personnel.
Good morning, Sergeant Davis, backgrounds in recruiting, Sergeant.
Thank you. And you have a brief report for us?
Yes, to my understanding, we provided a report, our quarterly reporting from July through September in recording our recruitment efforts. The Sheriff's Office continues to have a strong push towards recruitment. I'm happy to say that this afternoon we will have an enforcement academy where we'll be swearing in 22 new deputies to work the courts and the streets. We have been actively pursuing an aggressive push towards out-of-state recruitment. We continue to have moderate social media presence regarding our recruitment.
I'm sorry, just want to quickly interrupt. The report that you're giving on recruitment is item 7 that we moved to consent.
I apologize.
That's all right. And item 8 is on training.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'll give a quick status on training. During this quarter, we continue to hit the mandated training that we are required per post. This year in January 1 started our 2-year training cycle. As we're going right now, we should be completed with all mandatory post-training by spring of next year, which will be several months ahead of the December 2020 deadline. When it comes to additional training not required by post, our patrol division has completed all the CIT de-escalation training that we set forth this year, which was a 4-hour session dealing with mental health, and it was a CIT update. Additionally, we've sent several deputies and sergeants to our 40-hour CIT course. And we are currently actively looking at other agencies, both in-state and out-of-state, for best practices to see if the 40-hour model is effective, or if we need to tailor it so we can get additional staff the training that's required for CIT. Additionally, in this report, we continue with the surveillance and technology policy. We are almost at 100% compliance on that. And only thing of difference in this report from the previous one was our CPR first aid post changed the name of the course, so it's no longer the old course. So you'll see a new course. That way we don't have 100% compliance, but all our deputies are CPR first aid compliance. Just under the new course, they will be 100% by the end of this training cycle. And that's on the enforcement side. In the custody bureau, we continue to do the STC training. And we've just been keeping up or catching up on people that did not complete the training pass, but we are almost at 100% compliance there, and we are planning the next cycle of STC training.
Sorry, STC?
Standards of Training and Corrections.
Thank you.
My apologies. And we're planning the next cycle training, which would include a 16-hour Blue Courage course.
See if we have any questions. I'd like to get a better understanding of the curriculum that's being provided to staff. In the next report, can you share, please, a more detailed description or breakdown of the curriculum for the following trainings? And I'll get to why I'm asking. The behavioral health and de-escalation training, CIT, implicit bias, gender response, ADA, and CSEC training and protocols. It would be important to me to have information on how we evaluate the effectiveness of training and assess staff competency. It does sound like we're doing a good job getting people through the trainings, but wondering if we administer tests after each training, and if somebody fails, are they required to retake a course, or what else is the Sheriff's Office doing to know that that the training is effective and working?
We could definitely add that in the next report just briefly. Some of these courses already have like a pre-test or post-test. For example, the behavioral mental health. At the conclusion of the class, that class has scenario-based force options type of scenarios, and students are required to participate in those scenarios. Then the evaluator or facilitator of that course then actively sees if they understood the concepts during that course. And if additional remediation needs to take place, then they're actively giving pointers, guidelines as to what the minimum requirements for that class is. When it comes to CIT, the last few classes, we actually implemented a pre-survey to test the students' knowledge and a post-survey to see what actually they learned from the class. And we're actively tweaking the curriculum to meet the needs of our students and obviously what's going on in our surroundings. And then for the others, we'll get back to you with additional information on that.
Thank you so much. And for context, I'm thinking about all of this because my office was recently contacted regarding a juvenile runaway case that raised some really serious concerns for my team around enforcement's response to cases involving CSEC youth and intimate partner violence. In this specific case, speaking generally, implicit bias training, gender responsiveness training, CSEC training, and protocols should have helped to flag an appropriate enforcement response. And that was not what was received or perceived by the constituents. Thankfully, that case is on its way toward a positive resolution, but in the wake of it, I want us to focus our attention on making sure that we're providing effective training, promoting accountability, and really overall pushing us toward a positive cultural change. So thank you for that. Are there any other questions or comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question. In my 9 years that I've been here, the number of hours of training has increased dramatically. The result of which has made us a much better force, a much better unit, a much more responsive. You heard a compliment here from our prior speaker on what a great job you're all doing. I think that's wonderful. We're better able to handle things appropriately, and from mental issues to all the other issues that each of you and everybody in the department faces daily. What kind of a toll has it taken on the ability for our men and women, deputies in uniform, to be out there? Because when you're in a classroom, I'm just saying a classroom, depending where that, I know that classroom can be in many different places, but when you're in a class, learning how to be a better deputy, how to be a better law enforcement individual. By definition, you're not out on the street patrolling the rural areas or dealing with wherever you got to be. So again, in my 9 years, I've seen the number of officers in the Sheriff's Department increase dramatically. I've seen the number of classes increase. I just wondered if the two sergeants and lieutenant can speak freely and answer that question or not. Assistant Sheriff, whatever you think. I just want to make sure that you feel, well, I'll just tell you what I feel. The way we've been going, increasing the expertise, the knowledge, the abilities of each and every one of you, I think is great. I just want to make sure it's not coming at the detriment of being able to provide eyes and feet and a presence in the various communities, numerous communities, that you're responsible for providing safety for. And I just wondered your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely, Supervisor. The complexities of the profession are certainly much different today than they were in past years, and they're evolving constantly. So we're constantly balancing our productive and non-productive hours of our staff to make sure that our core duty and responsibility of public safety and service is paramount. However, it's also critically important to make sure that with the current generation and new generation of the workforce coming into this profession, that we're providing them with a different type of training. The learning styles that we're seeing, adult learning theory for a lot of our new and current workforce, is much different than what we've had in the past. So we're constantly balancing the appropriate training to make sure that when our deputies are deployed within our jail facilities or within the community, they have that fundamental knowledge and background to be the best they can and provide the best service they can. But to answer your pointed question, we really have not seen a detrimental impact within our enforcement bureau. Within our custody bureau, I would say we have had to rely more on overtime to staff our primary positions to allow deputies to get some of the specialized training, but that's in a different forum only because of our federal consent decrees. There are several additional mandated trainings that we're rolling out to be compliant with those consent decrees. So we're constantly balancing the two.
Thank you. Your awareness is right where I was hoping it would be. It doesn't surprise me. You do a great job. In the correctional area, do you feel with the additional classes, recruitments, graduations that we've been having the last 12 to 18 months, getting more and more people to wear the uniforms, do you feel we're headed in the right direction as far as reducing the necessary overtime to make up for people in the classroom? Are we headed in the right direction?
Absolutely, we're headed in the right direction, and as of this current academy class, we've filled all vacancies currently within our
Wonderful.
custody bureau.
You've been on a great roll for the last 18 months or so, and I think that's a credit to your increased outreach and everything else that you've done. I just wanted to make sure that, better educated, trained deputy, the better, correctional officer, whatever it may be, the better, but it doesn't matter if the person's not out there to begin with because they're in a classroom. And I understand learning new skills, being educated more, takes time. And I just wanted to make sure that you felt from your perspective, and I have not heard a single complaint from the public regarding lack of response time, presence, visibility, nothing. So I think you're doing a great job balancing increasing the skills of all the individuals in the organization while still providing the public with the safety it's come to expect. So kudos to you for doing that. And I think it's those maximum academies, 2, 3 a year, as compared to when I first got here, it was maybe 1 a year or half a class. And now it's full. I think you were headed in the right direction, and I hope we can maintain that. Yeah. And if for any reason we can't, I would ask that you bring to my office, our committee, that information.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on this item? All right, thank you. Then received, and we are moving into our final item, which is the last study session of the year on jail diversion and reentry services for primary caregivers with children.
So I'll go ahead and kick this off, Supervisor.
Thank you.
As I'm introducing the study session, I'm going to ask our first presenter, Lupe Ramirez from the Public Defender's Office, to go ahead and get set up at the microphones. As you mentioned, topic is jail diversion and reentry services for primary caregivers with children. I'd like to thank our partners for this joint report and presentation from Probation, the District Attorney's Office, Public Defender, Behavioral Health, Custody Health, Office of Reentry Services, Office of Women's Policy, Pretrial Services, and the Sheriff's Office. It was quite a joint venture here. Our presentation will cover the services and programs that benefit primary caregivers with children through various points in the criminal justice system. We go ahead and move on to slide 2. This is a 3-part presentation. First is on the system of care to be presented by the Public Defender's Office. Second part is services and programs provided, pre-booking custody and the community, presented by the other 8 departments that I mentioned earlier. And the third part is a focus on SB 394, a diversion program for primary caregivers, to be presented by Public Defender's Office and Behavioral Health. Because of the number of presenters and microphone logistics, just want to point out to the committee that between each section, people will be moving back and forth between the microphones. There may be brief transitions between the 3 parts. So with that, I'll go ahead and introduce Lupe. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm representing today the Public Defender's Office. I'm a social worker there. There you go. Okay. Good morning. And I don't think people heard me, but I'm Lupe Ramirez. I'm a social worker with the Public Defender's Office. I'm here representing our group of partnerships from this county in regards to System of Care Initiative. This initiative is on its 2nd year pilot testing regarding
the way that we will be servicing both children under 5 and also their parents in order to reduce the rates of removals from the home. So we went ahead and we started this pilot program with all our county partnerships in establishing what First 5 would be able to service this community, and specifically with the child's needs aligned with the parents' assessment of needs and risk factors that are associated with a removal from their custody. So if you want, we want to go ahead and probably look at the resources and the community partnerships that we've established from this core group. So you could see here all the systems, partnerships that we've established. These are just the core programmings. We're at the phases of touching lower level clients, and right now we're looking at, these are our main partners. We are still meeting in a conjunction to figure out if additional partners will be needed in the future. So this initiative has taken 3 touch points. The first touch point is accessing services for someone that is in the pre-booking or pre-trial part of a criminal and justice involved, or someone that is touching the criminal justice system. Someone can be identified in that touch point where we're able to provide services. The next stage is someone that hasn't been released and they're in custody. The identification points are different for every stage. Different departments have taken this core group of stages and developed their own eligibility criteria and then their own plan of action to deliver the services. So the third stage we have is post-release of an inmate. We are concentrating right now on mothers, but throughout these 3 stages, essentially women and men can be the actual recipients of services. The idea is that we're servicing through First 5 children in our community, assessing their needs, the risk factors of the parents that are justice involved, and assessing, with that assessment, taking it so that we develop a very individualized plan to address these risk factors in order for them not to be removed. So DFCS is our core partner in identifying these risk factors even before they come into the removal proceedings. So we look at stage 1, which is arrested individuals. If they are touching the first stage with pretrial services, they're able to provide services regarding voluntary connections to First 5 or any other county partnership that has access to children under 5. So the demographic here is really both men and women that have touched the criminal justice system. They're screened for having children under 5 and the needs that they're assessing for. Through that partnership, we've been able to gather information about how many people have children and are eligible to receive services either in custody or out in the community right after either their arrangement or some type of legal proceeding. At this touch point, we are able to have parents receive information regarding what First 5 services render in the community and also in custody. So when we go ahead and we had this pilot program, we talked about pretrial services being the actual entity that is collecting this information, and also the area that folks are assessing services either in a jail cell or through the court. So through pretrial officers, they should be assessed to be rendered services through First 5. So we could go ahead and go to stage 2 and look at mothers, and specifically that are in custody and were denied a release. So these are low-level offenses, and we're looking at assessing the mothers in custody and planning with them an assessment action plan, a psychosocial assessment that would be able to be identified with the risk factors that we have that potentially led to a removal or at risk of removal. That plan is then either used through a partnership with the attorney for a possible release, or one of our other system partners like Dependency Advocacy Center, DAC, what typically happens in this stage is that an inmate is identified at the very first touching point through our office, through a paralegal. That paralegal then identifies our group, the social worker group, where we go in and we assess the client and their needs based on their children. So from then on, we create an assessment plan with them. We present that assessment plan to the courts and pretrial services to see if a release is possible. If a release isn't possible straight into the community, we start discussing with behavioral health what it would look like for treatment or long-term services. That's when we talk about post-release. So we do a warm handoff to Dependency Advocacy Center unit where we have an internal referral with our county partners. We identify the risk factors and we establish a connection to the next phase. So in the third stage, we're talking about post-release inmates. And so we're talking about the connection that they've made in custody, either through a service provider or their actual legal defense team through our office or through DFCS and what case planning they're going to need. So we're essentially meeting the needs of people that are at risk and also folks that are already in that dependency side. So when we identify this type of clientele, social services, DAC already has a team established of a social worker and an attorney to manage the warm handoff. They provide preventative services, but they also do case management. They go ahead and provide the services that are needed to keep them connected to First Five or other community services through behavioral health that are identified in the earlier stages through the pilot program touch points in stages 2 and 1. So that's where we've seen some successes. Some examples of that have been that I have had the DAC team come over to our criminal proceedings for some of our clients and provide letters of progress, where they've been able to identify the areas that have demonstrated some significant progress for both courts on the dependency side and also on the criminal justice side. So right here is a better flow chart to understand a little bit more about how the process of service works. So you see that when an arrest happens, we have pretrial services, our first touch point. If the parent is screened, then these services can be rendered, but we have some voluntary issues with inmates that are not in agreement with using the services. If they are, they're identified to receive an assessment. From that assessment, we're able to connect some of our folks to either the corridor program with DAC, through DFCS, identify if they have a case plan already established. We provide the family assessment that is then rendered to the court to negotiate some type of release plan. So I'm going to go ahead and have any questions for me. This is someone else.
No, thank you.
And with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the second part of our presentation around services and programs for pre-booking in custody and in the community. So if those departments could go ahead and come to the mics. And there's 4 active microphones on this other side as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and, starting with Javier, I'm going to go ahead and have people introduce themselves before this part of the presentation begins.
Good afternoon, Javier Aguirre, Officer of Reentry Services.
Good morning, Pratima Pandey from the Division of Equity and Social Justice, Office of Women's Policy.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Patrick Marshall. I work for the Office of the Sheriff's Department. I'm the Programs Manager.
Bruce Coakley, representing Tony Tellis for Behavioral Health Department.
Tony Felice with the County Executive's Office.
Gap Lay, Deputy Chief Probation Officer of Adult Services.
James Gibbons Shapiro from the District Attorney's Office.
Good morning. I'm Matthew Fisk with Pretrial Services, and that answers my protocol question. So, we have a wide array of services that we're able to offer through pretrial services as one of the first points of contact. We're interviewing over 1,000 people a month, and each person is asked this question. Are you a primary care provider, and would you benefit from services to support your children? And we ask about the age, if they're 6 years or less. Every night I get a couple of emails indicating 1 2-year-old, 3 4-year-olds. A couple days ago I had 7 different children appear. So it really kind of keeps you in touch with what's happening. These individuals are being referred out to really valuable services. So some of the individuals we supervise in the community. Others have active warrants. They self-surrender, and I understand arrangements are being made for them as they're in jail. Their family can be taken care of. And we collaborate with a number of departments in the Community Awaiting Placement Supervision Program. Also, individuals are able to voluntarily serve time on electronic monitoring rather than in jail. And then after that, there's a wide array of diversion programs that we participate in.
Is that me now? Okay, I wasn't sure if there were going to be questions for Director Fisk. All right, so I'm James Gibbon Shapiro from the DA's office. I'm filling in for David Angel. Most of you know, I'm sure all of you know, that the DA's office has a relatively new narcotics filing policy, and I'll touch on that briefly. But David Angel is in St. Louis today because our policy has garnered some national attention and national interest, and there's other communities around the country that are interested in what we're doing here. So I'll try to fill in. So the overall theme of what I want to talk about is that the DA's office has more than 12 diversion or alternate resolution policies and programs, and almost all of them, well, all of them deal indirectly, and some of them deal even directly with the effects on the children of the people that we're prosecuting. And the first one I want to talk about is our collateral consequences policy that was enacted in 2011. It's most often thought of as what happens if a criminal defendant who is facing an immigration consequence is being prosecuted by the DA's office. Is there an alternative resolution which perhaps would have different charges, more time in custody, or more things that they would have to do that could be offered to anyone, whether or not they had immigration consequences, but would be especially desirable by someone who had a severe immigration consequence for a criminal charge to do. So even though that's what's most often thought about for our collateral consequences policy, it actually is designed to deal with all kinds of collateral consequences. And in fact, part of our training materials for our prosecutors about it talks about we may have a situation where we're prosecuting a woman with a small child. She's breastfeeding her child, and this is a jail sentence right now would be very detrimental to the child. That would be a severe collateral consequence to the way we would do our normal prosecution and our normal sentence. And it gives our prosecutors the ability to change the way we structure the sentence, to maybe substitute out a large amount of community service in exchange for what might have been a smaller amount of jail, something again that would be potentially offered to anyone who faced that charge, but would be particularly desirable to someone who was nursing an infant, and of course having a great deal of effect on the infant, him or herself. So I want to talk, mention that, because as you think about the other programs, and especially as you think about the presentation at the end about the new law for diversion for caregivers of small children, is to think about some of the policies we already have in place and how they also can work to both hold someone accountable, meaning that we don't have a diversion, we have an actual criminal prosecution, but also take into account the effects on the children. Pre-arraignment review is something that was on Director Fisk's slides. It has to do with our effort to work with pretrial services and the public defender's office where someone has been taken into custody, they don't yet have a court date, and we can work and do work with the public defender's office and with pretrial services to figure out whether a non-custodial status is going to be better for them. And of course, someone who's caring for minor children, that is likely going to be better for them, better for their children, and there are cases where that's appropriate. The home detention project is something that's related to this as well. So this was launched about a year ago and is set to be expanded this year. And this is an idea that there's cases in the system where the person is facing incarceration as a result of the criminal prosecution, but that if we put them on home detention right now, they would start earning custody credits from having that home detention. And in those appropriate cases at the end of their case, if they pled guilty, if they were found guilty at trial, that those custody credits would be largely in lieu of the sentence. And for people who've got small children at home, in the right case, that's, I think, the right solution. And we're not only have been working on that for a year with the courts, but are expanding it in the year to come. I touched on where David Angel is about our Narcotics Diversion program. So and I think you're familiar with it, the idea is that for low-level drug offenses, rather than file a criminal charge on the first occasion that we get those referred to the DA's office, that we would not file a criminal charge until the third time within 12 months, but that we would, on a referral of the first time, refer that person to services for their drug treatment, and really trying to take the court out as being the court being the middleman between someone who has a drug problem and them getting the services that they need. Our numbers to date, so this program went into effect about 3 months ago, and to date there are 2,000 individuals who otherwise would have had criminal charges filed against them but have not had criminal charges filed against them and have instead been referred directly to drug treatment services. And we estimate that over the course of a year that number will be between 5,000 and 7,000 people. So why am I mentioning it in respect to children is that this program has an effect on all sorts of things that we're trying to work on as a community. It has to do with disproportionality in our criminal justice system. If we know that there is a racially disproportionate for the representation in the census of different ethnic groups, that any program that affects all kinds of criminal cases will have a disproportionate benefit to overrepresented groups in the criminal justice system. And what about the idea of children? I think that I hear often from our friends in the public defender's office that just coming to court repeatedly makes it hard for you to hold a job, makes it hard for you to get your children to childcare, makes it hard to even go into the programming that has been talked about in the systems of care that are going to help a parent care for a young child and have that young child not be the next generation of criminal defendant. And these kinds of programs, broadly stated, and the narcotics diversion is one of the largest ones that we've got in the county from the DA's office, are ones that, even though they have a broad effect to all sorts of criminal defendants, they have a special effect on people who are caring for young children, because it means that they're not going to be having multiple court dates. They're not going to be facing potential incarceration. They're getting directly referred to treatment. And we'll see how this plays out, but I'll say that the early indicators is that it's successful so far.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
James, thank you for that. Is the drug treatment that you recommend people to mandatory? Is there some sort of accountability of finishing a program or going through a program? And do we have enough slots in drug treatment programs to meet the need of the people that you're diverting?
Yeah. I think that it's important when we're presenting these things publicly that we speak frankly with each other. So I want to, first of all, address the myth that there was some kind of mandatory or enforcement for drug treatment even when criminal charges were filed. And what I mean by that is that if a criminal charge was filed for a low-level drug offense and the person was in court and the court ordered them to drug treatment and they failed that drug treatment, then they would be reordered to drug treatment. And if they failed that drug treatment, then potentially they would be pleading guilty and getting a Prop 36 resolution, which would also be an order to drug treatment, which they may or may not succeed in. So the level of actual engagement and success in drug treatment as ordered by the court and with the threat of potential incarceration, we'll just say is dubious. So one of the things that we're trying to address with that is if what we're doing is expending an enormous amount of court time and resources of the DA's office, the pretrial services department, the public defender's office, and the probation department in order to try to refer someone to drug treatment, when we know that the thing that's going to be most effective in someone getting and succeeding in drug treatment is their own belief that they need and should get drug treatment, then we should try to take out all of those other players and try to put the person directly in touch with the drug treatment and not have all these middle people in between. So I'll say it remains to be seen, Supervisor, whether this is going to be more effective or as effective as what we were doing before. But I think it's fair to say that what we were doing before was not as effective as we wanted it to be. And we're hoping that this is at least as effective as that and potentially more effective because we're taking out players that may have been an impediment to getting the treatment that the person needed.
Thank you. And to the question about sufficiency, that might be answered with behavioral health services. So I'll wait if it is. But when we are referring people, do you ever hear an issue that there's not a space, not a slot, whether it's inpatient or outpatient?
There are not enough spaces or slots. One of the huge needs in our community and in communities across the country is there are not enough drug treatment spots for people, especially I'll say for meth addiction. Meth addiction is a growing problem around the country, but actually it's the #1 drug problem in Santa Clara County and has been for a while. And the fact that we don't have enough treatment beds was true when we were referring people from court, and it remains true today. And one of the things I think there's an opportunity for the Board of Supervisors to consider as we move forward is if it's true that we've reduced the amount of resources that we've had to devote through various criminal justice partners, is there an opportunity for the Board of Supervisors to allocate money for additional treatment beds that would actually serve this problem directly? But I think that's a matter for, at least from my office's perspective, future study, because we're not sure how this is all going to play out.
Well, I do know that the Board of Supervisors approved a significant increase in the behavioral health services budget, added, I think, 170 treatment beds. Why don't I let the actual expert talk about all of the services that we have added, because you're right, this is something that's been an ongoing challenge. I know one of the pieces in place is changing some of the detox center, which largely sits open because it's only for folks who are under the influence of alcohol, to allow for detoxing from meth and other substances. I don't know if you're next in line or if I should hold those questions, but it clearly is linked together. So in custody, and then is behavioral health one of the pieces here? Yes. Then I shall try to be patient.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and move to in-custody services. Go ahead, Dr. Marshall.
So good morning again. So we have 4 parenting programs that we give in custody that we also do with our collaborative partnerships. We actually have really great engagement with our parenting programs. We have a lot of good success with them. We get a lot of great feedback from the inmates that are participating in them. Our parenting programs look to enhance the parental abilities and skill sets of the individuals that are taking the classes. They look to give them a means to be able to develop their children a lot more. And then we also look to have that strength and maintain that bond, the parental bonds that we have with it. And that's our parenting program, kind of our philosophy with them. We continue to grow and develop and expand our parenting programs throughout custody. And once again, we get a lot of amazing feedback from what we're doing with them. So as you can see, we have our Pact Like program, which provides a lot of visitations. And we have our First 5, which we're always expanding and putting them in other areas where we haven't been able to have a lot of parenting. They're going to go into there, so we'll have success there as well. And then we have our positive parenting, which we have with our our individuals in the minimum camps and things of that nature, the RCP. And then our DA Parent Projects is actually it's a really great program, and they've actually gone through, they've been in our women's and they've been in our mans from our moderate levels and into our minimums. So that's our parenting programs.
Hello, my name is Anu Pirmatam. I'm the Interim Director for Custody Behavioral Health Services. So I'm representing the Custody Behavioral Health Services today. So the research shows that the trauma in caregivers or parents can impact the life of the children. So the evidence-based practices indicates addressing and provision of adequate treatment and services to the parents can actually improve the quality of life and outcomes in their children and family. Custody Health Services will be initiating a pilot project on trauma-informed care to provide appropriate mental health screening, education, and treatment for our incarcerated individuals. This project is aiming to provide treatment and resources to those who are in need with the goal of reducing subjective distress, mental illness symptom reduction, reducing high utilization of crisis services, and prevention of unhealthy behaviors or incidents while they are incarcerated. We are hoping that these services will provide treatment resources in incarcerated population or parents, which will allow them to cope with the trauma, to keep them mentally stable, in order to keep their family together, supporting their children when they get released from custody. So this pilot project will be implemented in several steps. We are aiming towards creating an order set in our HealthLink electronic records. As of yesterday, the build is completed. The recording and documentation of all the treatment modalities we will be using and the details will be documented in our electronic health records. Then we will be looking at data gathering and analysis of data on the subjective distress score of the treatment, and that will be the benchmark for the progress of treatment. We are planning to provide adequate training to all of our staff to provide trauma-focused care and treatment for our patients who are incarcerated. And we will be looking at all the research, evidence-based practices, literature review to gather more data and to improve our services on this topic. We will be tracking incidents while in custody and well-being and psychosocial functioning of the individuals pre and post-treatment. And we will be planning to track the readmission data and whether any impact of this services provided, trauma-focused care provider has any impact on the readmission rate for these individuals. We will be developing a policy addressing the specific care, trauma-focused care we'll be providing in custody health services. And this is to standardize the process and for the consistency and for gathering the data analysis in the future. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it.
Gapley for probation. As mentioned earlier, Dependency Advocacy Center provides ongoing counsel for parents that have open case with DFCS and parents at risk of having their children removed. This is a joint effort by DAC and probation to help families break the cycle of child welfare and criminal justice system involvement. So in 2017, probation contracts with DAC to provide multidisciplinary support to probation clients. The goals are to ensure children of arrested or incarcerated parents are healthy, living in a safe, nurturing environment. Ensure the arrested and incarcerated parents have access to resources and increase family reunification. All right. So there are two target populations. The first one is prevention cases. These are parents who are at risk of having an open dependency court case. This could be referral, informal, or voluntary services. The other target population is open case, meaning parents with open dependency court case, meaning petitions was filed. The referral process, so probation, the public defender's office, or community-based organizations may refer the clients to the Quota program. Clients also may refer themselves. Probation officers at probation department, probation officer identify the clients during our assessment appointments. We have an assessment unit, consists of probation officer, and we ask if they have children, the age, and then identify the needs and make a referral or provide information for them to self-refer. All right. So just to touch a little bit on the components of the Quota program, assessment and case planning. They will do the assessment and create an action plan based on their intake. They have a interdisciplinary team support consists of an attorney, social worker, and mentor parent. They provide court support. They attend criminal court hearings and advocate on the parent's behalf. And lastly, community connections, providing the community connections and support through intentional integration into the client's community to reinforce skill building and self-sufficiency. So just a little bit more on the team. The attorney provides direct legal representation to probation of all parents with open dependency cases and give advice to those at risk of child welfare system entry. The social worker provides education, advocacy, and emotional peer support. And mentor parents supports parents navigating through the child welfare and criminal justice systems. And I don't have the information, but as it relates to the children, DAC responds to the family needs on an individual basis. The kinds of service DAC has connected families for their children range from financial and medical benefits, material resources such as diapers, formulas, strollers, clothing, after-school activities, and therapy.
In partnership with the Office of the Sheriff, Reentry Services have been identifying key community-based organizations to support individuals in custody. With that, we have two providers that go in custody to provide life skills and psychosocial classes. One of those is Caregivers. Pratima mentioned earlier at this meeting that recently Office of Reentry Services and OWP went in to do some focus groups. One of the things that the women that we were talking to highlighted the need for stress reduction skill sets. And so Caregivers does that. And in partnership with them, they worked on a program to help especially the women with children to, when they return back into custody, to provide those stress reduction skill sets for their own kids. And so they've been expanding those programs in the community, more of those pro-social activities for them in the community.
I know that one of the key challenges for parents reunifying with their children when they come out of custody is housing.
Yes.
And how is your office supportive of connecting them directly to housing opportunities, or what does that look like?
Right. So the next slide is some of our providers that we work with. So Pratima mentioned GROW, the Gender Responsive for Opportunities for Women. So we have two service navigation contractors that go into custody that work with clients to create a release plan. And housing is an issue. And so we work with the rehab officers in custody to ensure that clients understand if they have been screened in the community through Office of Supportive Housing, the VI SPDAT. So we identify whether that has happened. In terms of immediate housing, the service navigations can then start working with Office of Supportive Housing to see if there's any emergency shelters. Housing is a huge impediment. When we were doing the focus group, a lot of the women that have returned was due to substance use, the relapse. So not only did they relapse, but they might have lost their housing when it's offered by behavioral health at the transitional housing unit, and then that's not having adequate stable housing. And so we work closely with Office of Supportive Housing to identify that housing, and while a client may be receiving rapid rehousing or permanent supportive housing, it's a matter of being in the queue. One thing that we've identified, and sometimes our clients are confused as to what programs they've been enrolled in and who's doing what. And so through our service navigation providers, we're asking them, and we're holding them accountable to be the advocates for the clients and then to identify who's doing what. So if they've linked someone to Office of Supportive Housing, then that case manager should be working with that client. So I think when I was looking at presenting it, I think the challenge we have now with our clients is we may offer so many programs, but they're lost in the system. And what is key for us is identifying who's case managing them. So if they're in treatment, there should be a case manager creating a housing plan, working with the Office of Supportive Housing. If it's one of our providers, we're holding them accountable to help them with the housing plan. If it's someone who's been released from and being supervised by probation or parole, we're trying to figure out who's responsible for creation of those plans. And then a key is sharing those plans with everyone. And so that's something that the challenge that we see in terms of providing services in custody and in the community. And then lastly, one of the other programs that we offer that is really key is the pro bono Silicon Valley that goes into custody doing legal workshops and representation. So a lot of clients have questions about child support, guardianship, so pro bono is there to do workshops. So it's empowering the individuals in custody with the information that they need to better themselves when they come out in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before I go into the jail monitoring slide, I just want to also add during the focus group, because Supervisor, you asked specifically about housing challenges. One of the things that our team heard, we were 3 members from reentry and 3 from Office of Women's Policy, but the consistent theme has been housing. As well, there were a couple of individuals who had completed the GROW program. One of them said that she was ready to qualify for housing and she missed the VIS SPDAT score by 1. And it's hard to hear that, because when we're trying to tell individuals we're going to work with you to get you back in the community and settled and get life back, we could as a system think a little more thoughtfully on what we need to do to make sure that 1 point doesn't put a person back in custody. Because the focus group that we did was purely of women who went through the program and unfortunately are back in custody. So we'll be processing that data and bringing it back here.
Thank you. That's really good feedback, and I assume you've already shared that with OSH?
We'll be working on getting all of the connected partners the right information,
Right.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the committee is familiar with our jail monitoring program. This is, along with the Commission on the Status of Women, their Public Safety and Advocacy Subcommittee. We go into the jails twice a month, and we have right now there are 20 plus active jail monitors, and the reason it says 20 plus is because we have to make them go through a thorough training before they qualify as jail monitors, and there are some who have gone through one part of the training are still pending. Some of the highlights I already shared in our earlier report. One thing that I do want to flag for this committee is that we're working very closely on making sure that we are constantly updating the books in each of the cells at Elmwood, as well ensuring that books for the visitation area are kid-friendly. We have also been able to, and I know Supervisor Ellenberg has been a jail monitor with us in the past as a commissioner on the Commission on Status of Women. The commission was very particular about ensuring that there are books even in the waiting area that are children-friendly, and I want to point that out because one of the pieces that we want to share with this committee is how our work is empowering the women as well, ensuring that the children who come to visit them have a safe space. I do want to point out a few things from our 2018 jail monitoring survey in our next slide. There were about 7% of the women who were surveyed who were pregnant, and I want to point that out because it's important for us to ensure that when we have pregnant inmates, we are providing them extra levels of care. The Breaking Cycle Rebuilding Lives report from 2012 that Office of Women's Policy produced had specific recommendations for pregnant inmates, and we're continuing to monitor that. The Office of the Sheriff has been partnering with us to make sure that the women, even though we couldn't get them the mattresses that were recommended in the report, now the Office of the Sheriff has a double-layer mattress available for inmates who are pregnant. I wanted to flag that for the committee. Also, in our report, there were 26% of the children of the inmates that were surveyed in our last report were in foster care, and that's why I was flagging in our earlier report the fact that we want to continue working closely with DFCS. In the next slide, I just want to point out some of the upper level highlights of what we're continuing to ensure that we can keep doing. The pieces that we hear constantly when we go into the jails is vocational training programs that lead to employment. This has been part of our recommendations, and even in the 2018 report that was presented to this committee in January, we had flagged the vocational training recommendation as partly complete because there are some...
Excuse me, through the chair, if I may.
Please.
Thank you. Could you go back one slide? I have one question for you on that.
Yes.
I saw 75% of the inmates surveyed were mothers.
Yes,
and then I heard you say 26% of the children, I didn't hear what age, but were in foster homes?
Yes, Supervisor.
Okay, so 3 out of every 4 of the inmates surveyed were mothers, and might those have been mothers of children who were in foster homes?
That is correct.
Okay, so when I first read the PowerPoint when we received our information a few days ago, I saw that and I was thinking of 75% of the inmates mothers, and I automatically thought with children at home, so who was taking care of them? So in fact, some of their children are in the foster care program.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Yes.
I don't know if you know this data, but what percentage of the children who are in foster care are there as a result, a direct result of the mother being incarcerated?
I can find that out for you and get back to you on that. I don't have that off the top of my head, but
that's
I do
fine.
have
I think that might be an interesting distinction, particularly for my colleague, to separate whether the kids already were in foster care and now the mom is arrested, or the kids go into foster care as a direct result.
Thank you, and more information is always helpful. The reason I brought this distinction up was when I thought of 3 out of every 4 people, of the women being mothers, being in jail, I thought of who is taking care of the kids at home. When I then heard you say, I think it was 26%, was your number?
Yes.
26% were in foster homes, although none of us is crazy about the foster home system. They still had a home, had an adult that was responsible for them while their mother was in jail. And that was the distinction that I was making. None of it's a good place to be, but I felt better about the child being with other children, being in a home, being housed, having a responsible adult, while the mother was in jail, than who's taking care of the kid. And that was my concern. And that 26% number, I heard you say after I read these 3 bars on the previous page. So thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. And then just in the last slide, all I want to flag is that we're continuing to figure out how we can connect with the Sheriff's Office on vocational opportunities for women. One of the things that this committee, given this special study session, I want to highlight is that vocational opportunities and trainings for women, especially those who are in primary caregiving roles, don't look the same as that for men, because often vocational training programs in the men's side relate to construction and heavy industry jobs, and those sites require reporting as early as 6 a.m. often, and if you're a primary caregiver of minor children, you can't make that. And so we have to think think critically about what kind of vocational training programs would lead to successful outcomes for women when they come back into our society. And I will end at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if there are no further questions, we'll go ahead and move on back to the community phase of this, starting back to James Gibbons Shapiro.
I've already addressed most of these things. The thing I wanted to highlight is the diversion program at the DA's office for truancy. So we've focused in the last few years especially on children who are not arriving at school for kindergarten or elementary school. And our program is one of where we have our community prosecutors engaged in mediation with the family and the school district with the goal of getting that child in school. So the reason why it's called a diversion program is because there's no part of this that results in the parent being incarcerated, but there's actually quite a lot of effort at the DA's office and at the schools to make sure that that child stops being a truant, stops not being at school, and starts having the stability and the learning that happens in school so that they can be successful both in school and in life. And that's, I think, been a huge success. And it's really a change if you look at the 20 years or 30 years of different kinds of policies we've had at the DA's offices on truancy. It's really the most engaged we've been with the school districts and the parents, and really a commitment to not having any of these parents be facing criminal penalties, but really trying to work with them to make sure their kids are in school. I'll cede the rest of my time back. I feel like I've already taken up a lot of time. I could talk for quite a long time about all the diversion programs because I said there's more than 12, but I want to cede the rest of my time back because the rest of these slides are just going into more detail about our truancy program.
So with that, we'll move on to slide 33, the Reentry Resource Center.
So there's a slide on the one prior to 33.
Yep.
So in terms of reentry centers, so as you know, we have one here in San Jose, one in Gilroy. And just looking at recent statistics in terms of the number of individuals coming in that report they have children under 18. For here in San Jose, 52% of the women that come to reentry have children, and 38% of the men that come to the reentry center have children. So great significant numbers of our clients that come in. And so what our intent is to identify the services under this continuum of services. And the next slide. So as many of you are aware of the services, the type of services we provide at the reentry center, and our focus is to address quickly the immediate needs of clients as they are being released from either local jail or state prisons, ensuring that they get enrolled in Medi-Cal insurance, food assistance, short-term housing, and getting them some type of transportation services. Then, of course, we move on to the next domain in terms of health services. So it is critical that many individuals that are in custody are getting some type of health service, whether it's primary care or mental health services. And so we link them with our medical mobile unit to get access to healthcare services. Then we move on to the social economic supports. And so like Pratima mentioned about vocational training and employment. So we're very fortunate that we have some community colleges courses being taught at the center. And so we're trying to change the image of some of our clients. Instead of them being called justice involved or formerly incarcerated, but they could call themselves college students. So what better way to tell their own kids that they're college students so that they could give a good, be good role models to their own children. So we have a class there that is taught every Wednesday at the center We're also looking at expanding those community colleges with Mission College providing a culinary program. And then we're in discussion with Evergreen Community College to expand some additional classes. For example, we know that there's a big need for professional services for office specialists. So we're looking at Evergreen for that. And then finally, the client navigation case management is another domain that we work with our clients in terms of mentoring and supervision and client peer support work.
This is Bruce Coakley for Behavioral Health. Much of the discussion earlier in coordination of services has been discussed, so I don't want to go into that. We provide, through Kid Connection, services for children up to age 5 to address developmental delays that can be caused by social, emotional, or environmental stressors and or trauma, so that children are prepared to enter elementary school. We do this through interventions both with the children and with the caregivers and parents, helping caregivers and parents develop behavioral interventions that can support the child in meeting very critical developmental stages within the first 5 years of their life. The goal then is to, if necessary, bring them into additional services once they are in elementary school to, again, support the improvements that have been done in the early stages of interventions with them during the 0 to 5 years of their life. With that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Whew. Thank you all. I think we requested a remedial course and got the PhD level. I really appreciate all of that. We do have just a very short window for questions now, so I'll turn to my colleagues and then take it up afterward. Yes, Molly.
I know we're running long, and I'll make this a quick question or maybe an observation or a call to focus on something. But as we got ready to participate in the Public Defender's Office in our system of care work, we took a tour of Elmwood and saw the visiting room, which is beautiful, but as I understand, underutilized. And while men get visits from their children on a much higher rate due to the moms driving the kids out, the women don't get that same level of attention to visits with their kids. So I think it seems to me like that's something of a low-hanging fruit item where we could work at addressing it, and I just wanted to make sure we don't lose that from our perspective.
I agree. That is a critical piece and hopefully low-hanging fruit that we can look at what are the barriers to caregivers bringing children to visit their mothers. Is it transportation? Is it having to care for other children? And what can we do to address that? Thank you. Other thoughts before I go? Miguel.
Supervisor, thank you. I just wanted to make another quick observation, and that is, it strikes me as I listen to all this, an easy proposition was made. You know, how do we have low-level parents, mostly women, be able to provide care to their children to make sure we can deal with the cycle and everything else? What seems simple resulted in, I think, a 42-page PowerPoint. As I counted 11 departments who were involved, and I said, I wish there were 12. Actually, I'm sure County Council was involved, so I'll count it as a dozen departments. CBOs were mentioned, the court, first 5, Evergreen Community College. You have a simple proposition that's layered into a very complex system. And that's what I think drives so much of the work here in the county. And we know even something as simple and common sense as this is going to require strong collaborative efforts among the departments and the community and outside agencies and everybody else. And I think this is a good example of progress. I think I heard James say that we are already seeing some success, and that's incredible. The other thing you said is that a different program is already in the national spotlight, I think. And I hope issues like this one can also, you know, it's great that we do this work here. We have the resources to do it. We have the commitment and the collaborative spirit to work on it. But I think also, I hope we can do other simple issues and take them on like this one, but also more complex problems, because the issues that are
clients face are complex. And I think what this shows me is bringing to the work in a collaborative manner, a client-centered focus is going to get us the results that we want. So I want to thank the board for providing the administration the space it needs to get this complex work done.
Thank you for
May
that.
I just make
Please.
a comment on
Please,
behalf
Judge.
of the court? And I would say that in many cases, the court is more in a reactive position. We have to wait until someone comes into the system where we can then do what's hopefully best for everyone involved. But I do want to assure everyone, I think many of you already know, but if you don't, that this year we have restructured our court calendars. We're going to have 2 collaborative courts and 2 mental health treatment courts, whereas we only had 1 before. We had 3 drug treatment courts because of some of the changes that have been referenced earlier. We see a way to use these collaborative courts in a broader sense. So we're going to be having, and those courts, we're taking the truancy calendar out of the actual criminal Hall of Justice. We're going to have that over there. We're going to have the young adult deferred DEJ, yes, is going to be part of it. Our dependency wellness court, our family law treatment court, and we have 2 judges that are going to be staffing that, Judge Erica Yu and Judge Mike Clark. I know they're very enthusiastic, and we'll have, in addition to our, of course, wonderful Judge Manley, we're also going to be having another mental health treatment court with Judge Silva in it. So the court is interested in collaboration also, and we look forward to working with all of you in the future.
When is that department being set up, the mental health court?
These go into effect January 21st of 2020. So we're working on getting them set up now, but I just had to put the assignments out this last Friday, and this was something that we talked about as a court and how we wanted to address some of these issues and problems, and we want to be part of it. I mean, we're part of the community. We want to be part of the collaboration, so.
I think that's fantastic. Maybe a few months after it's up and running, you could share a report or update on how that work is going, how many people are coming through that. I'm really glad to hear about that work. Thank you.
Happy to do that.
Martha, I'm going to give you the last word, but I want to just pop in a couple of comments very quickly before, if that's all right with you. I heard, and I'm sure all of us did, a lot of really good information here, still with gaps, with the visiting gaps that Molly mentioned. I really focused in on the fact that 39% of women who are incarcerated have a child under 5, and regardless of the quality of programs and the great things we are doing for women while they're incarcerated, we know that we're traumatizing their children, whether they're in the foster care system or in something even less stable. The new Surgeon General for California is working on requiring ACEs screening to become universal, and we will see that one of the most significant adverse childhood experiences is having a parent who's incarcerated. So continuing to look at programs like the electronic ankle monitoring, or what else might we be able to do. You're talking about at your office, Protima, with girls. I would love to expand that vision to moms with young children, because that really is a double generation effect. So things to think about from here, and ways that my office, or things that I can bring to the board can be helpful, are to get creative in types of pilots that maybe we should try to implement, looking at what other jurisdictions are doing. And the last thing I'll note is that the Parisi House is a really good place to divert moms, but if they are detoxing, they can't go there. They have to go first to Mariposa. So thinking about other, maybe broader concepts along the Parisi model of where moms can go and remain with their children during whatever period of detention is deemed necessary. So with that, Martha, finish us off, and then I will adjourn.
Just very quickly, in your packet is information about SB 394, diversion for primary caregivers. Just want to point that out because Public Defender's done a lot of work in preparing for this already, and behavioral health is figuring out how to implement it in the counties. Just want to point that out, that information is available to you.
Thank you, and I want to express tremendous appreciation to all of the departments that did work on this and brought us all out of the silos, which I think don't even really exist as much as we sometimes worry that they do. And thank you all. It is 12 o'clock. I'm going to adjourn the meeting. The clerk will be sending notices of cancellation for the December meeting, so happy holidays.
May I
And we're
please-
adjourning to
Excuse me.
January 9th
Yeah.
at 10 a.m. Yes?
I'm sorry, Supervisor
Please.
Ellenberg. I just wanted to point out that our mental health supervisor is here and was going to present on SB 394, which is diversion for caregivers, and we don't have to have it, but she is prepared to do it, and I realize it's noon, so I didn't want to leave her sitting there. The information's in the packet, and
My apologies. I am sorry about that. And certainly the new legislation is critical. Do you want to do a 1 minute so I can, I just don't want to hold folks longer who have their next meetings.
Thank you. I completely understand. It's like giving a closing argument at 5.
I'm so sorry.
Everything.
The judge is taking off the robe.
All of the eligibility requirements are in my slides. So these are for low-level offenders where there would be no potential danger to the minor in the house, and low-level charges, so no serious or violent felonies. What this is basically the state catching up to Santa Clara County. And I think that we just need basically the one step, which I'm encouraged to hear Judge Ryan say, is that there could be room in the Superior Court to hear what is already basically established is a diversion program for primary caregivers, but that has to have the approval of the courts to initiate that program. But we do have a mature program that I think would be very easy for any judge to supervise, since this has been, the System of Care initiative has been in place for 2 years.
Thank you very much for that, and I would love to follow up with you. Anything else that we've missed? All right. Happy holidays. This committee will next convene on January 9th.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. In the agenda, I think it says Thursday, December 12th.
Yes, I
Adjournment?
just said that the clerk is going to send out a notice of cancellation for the December meeting.
Thank you.